We're live from the HousingWire news desk at MBA Annual. I'm thrilled to welcome Jim Rosen of Mortgage Cadence to this edition of HousingWire Instant Impact. Jim, could you briefly introduce yourself and Mortgage Cadence?
Sure, thanks Diego. My name is Jim Rosen. I'm head of product and services at Mortgage Cadence. That means I work with our product managers and oversee all of our third-party provider integrations. And Mortgage Cadence is one of the premier LOSs that maybe you haven't heard of. We're not one of the big ones, but we're maybe number 3. We have a complete lending ecosystem, everything from a point of sale, product and pricing engine, as well as document preparation, document management. So one-stop shop for all of your lending needs and origination needs in the Mortgage Cadence platform.
Now, there's a lot of buzz about AI
Yes.
in mortgage, a lot of buzz, but not many practical use cases yet.
Yeah.
How is Mortgage Cadence integrating AI in a practical way into the LOS?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of things that are actionable at this point that you can point to. So, we're taking a couple of different tracks or tacks that we're trying to understand and harness and deliver the power, because the promise and the power is there. It's just how do you bundle it up and make it accessible. So, immediately some of the things that we're doing is integrating the generative AI and access for our support teams and for our developers, our coders. So what we're seeing is a lot of inside-out approach with AI, whereas lenders are doing this, other providers are doing this. So how do you make what you do better, faster, and without sacrificing quality? So, we have tons of documentation like you might imagine. If our support team can access that information accurately and quickly, our lenders get a better support experience, they're more accurate. We get that satisfaction up because they're getting the answers they need quickly. For our developers, they're able to produce code and develop features that are more consistent, higher quality, less turn time, in terms of delay and that sort of thing. Now, the other thing that we're doing is working with our Accenture partners. They've invested a lot of money over the last 2 or 3 years just dipping their toes in, finding the capabilities and refining some of those use cases. And so working with Accenture and then the market, what we're also finding is lenders are on the same sort of journey. What's there? How is this meaningful to them? Where are the risks? And how do they mitigate those risks? So with Accenture and the LOS view, we're working with the industry to help them develop governance, understand what the governance pitfalls and requirements are so we can be compatible with that. And then really on the LOS side, building a framework that they can bring their AI into. Because one of the big things is, how do you secure the data? How do you make sure that the thing that you're doing that's interesting and unique stays interesting and unique and doesn't become source for another model out there? So we've learned in the past where, when we attempt to come to a conversation and a relationship and say, well, you might have your thing, use our thing, it doesn't go so well, right? Lenders have their own relationships and their own governance, and we need to respect that. So that's really the framework option. But with Accenture behind us, if you don't have that, we've got a solution that they can tap into.
Let's talk about Accenture a little more. You have a unique relationship with them.
Very much so, yes.
Tell us how that relationship augments your ability to integrate new technology, specifically AI.
Well, what it does is it really gives us a research and development set of resources and capabilities that if we were just an LOS by ourselves or our 300 employees, it would be very challenging to commit those resources for any extended period of time and make any sort of real valuable discovery. So with the power of Accenture behind us, we've got access to a ton of different market verticals, as well as resources from a people, as well as financial resources to invest in discovery, right? Just finding something, seeing how it works, where is their utility, going to the market to get that feedback. And then as the LOS, we can partner with our Accenture teams to say, what have you found? Where is it interesting? What are the conversations? And then we have our very narrow view around the LOS compared to other industry verticals, and we can say, this might be useful here, and then bring that to market. So
it's a challenging market, and it's been that way for a couple of years.
It has.
And so there's conforming loans, which everyone is scrambling to get a piece of. But then there's the non-traditional borrowers, which may be a market opportunity for a lot of your clients. How do you enable your clients to tap into that non-traditional borrower?
Yeah, I think I've heard in the day that we've been here so far, the self-employed consumer borrower being a challenge that everybody is trying to solve with efficiency, solve with automation.
It's the gig economy.
Right, it's a gig economy,
Yeah.
right? How do you qualify somebody that drives Uber on a weekend and does some other sort of thing, right? It's not your traditional W-2. So, some of the things that we're bringing to the table are the configurable LOS in and of itself. First, right? First, we have an LOS that lets you do the conforming. If it fits in the box, it's great. But we've got a rules engine and automation that allows a lender to configure that system to do the self-employed and other non-traditional scenarios with as much automation as you can fit within the conventional space. And then we're bringing data extraction and some other technologies to help that lender, pull information off that 1099 and integrate those into the system, making documents. Everybody's got to stare at them and look at them, but how do you automate? Well, that's what we're bringing in as a solution to bring them in and data extraction, and just like you would pull off of an interface, pull the data off the document and make those automatable.
Now, you're probably a year or two into your integration of AI into your tech stack, but many lenders are still in the first inning.
Very much.
If they've even started playing the game.
I think in the last, call it 6 to 8 months, right? We've been having a lot of conversations with our customers and in the market and some of these conventions, and what we're hearing is they're very early. They're also tapped when it comes to resources to do research for research sake. Lenders understand that they need access to technology and the ability to do more loans with the same number of people, be more efficient, drive down costs where they can, and that's the promise of AI. Can I do more with the same people I have? Can I do better things without sacrificing quality? So they're trying to investigate. And Accenture is bringing a lot of help there to just help them on that journey, not to replace it, but help them on that journey and provide the expertise and the resources we have. But I think, you're right. They're probably another 12 months or so before people are actually trying to make this a part of their lending operation, and probably a little bit even further away unless we get some regulation and some guidance from regulators from having that AI break that customer lender barrier, right? So for now, it's all inside. How do lenders be more efficient? How do you get information to somebody so they have a full picture of what the options are versus having them go to like a search engine and trying to flip through guidelines, and equipping your employees and lenders and loan officers to be more efficient and knowledgeable.
You mentioned regulation. That's really a key point here.
I think it
because
is.
no lender wants to get stuck with a fair lending issue because they're the first to mess around with AI. So how do you coach and provide best practices to your clients so that they can kind of get off the starting line?
Well, at the end of the day, it's technology, right? Lenders are evaluating technology, using technology. This is just different technology. So all the rules around fair lending and federal regulation, they still apply. You're still on the hook for those things. You can't stand behind the technology and go, well, I didn't know. So it's really around, what you need to do, and then make sure the technology you're evaluating isn't contra to what applies to you, right?
All right, so you're here talking to a lot of clients, a lot of prospects. What are you sharing with them about your 2025 product roadmap that's getting them excited?
I think one of the things that we're investing in on that cost reduction, being more efficient, our mid-market offering called the Essentials. It's an offering on MCP, comes out in the spring. So that's exciting. So our enterprise lenders are going to benefit from that because we've taken an effort to simplify managing the LOS. Previous to our mid-market offering, we it took a little bit of technical expertise to make the LOS do what you wanted it to do, and what we need to do is make it easier to do that. So that comes out in the spring, and then we're continuing to look at value-added integrations with third parties. There's a lot of them here today. They're bringing exciting new capabilities to the conversation. Where as an LOS, I don't necessarily want to do it, but I do want to give access to my lenders to do that, and to make sure that they can access those technologies.
The energy here seems pretty good.
Yeah, it is interesting. I will say, been to a couple of these, been around for a little bit. The gray hair is evidence, but I think this year, I'm more unsure of what the future holds for this industry. The state of rates and the locked-in effect and where everybody is and what's going to happen with volume. There's just a lot of uncertainty, and I feel that as well. But I've never been more excited because there's just so many other folks who have come in when we talk about fintech with new ideas, and there's new technology and AI making the previously impossible. It's conceivable, right? So it's a lot of excitement, but a lot of uncertainty now. And I think that's the energy you feel. It's like where can I take advantage and where can we move the needle?
All right, well, let's leave it there on that note of optimism.
Yes.
Jim, great to catch up.
Thanks so much, Steve.
All right.